Terry McLaurin sounds off on the Washington Commanders as he is not happy with the lack of contract discussions. Plus, a couple other big-name players do get paid. We're going to talk about it all here on 4 Verts. My name is Harrison Graham. This is actually our second video of the day. So if you subscribe to the channel, go to the content tab. If you see this thumbnail, go check out our video from earlier as we discussed a couple of other news storylines as well. Let's go ahead and jump on into this episode. All right, Terry McLaurin upset that he does not have a contract extension with training camp looming next week. He was filming a commercial or something in the D.C. area, I believe, and there was some media out there, so he basically just did an open forum, and he did not hold back about his frustrations for the lack of contract talk. So let's get into what he said here, then we'll react a little bit further. He said, "I've been pretty frustrated, I'm not going to lie. Everything that has transpired up until this point has been disappointing and frustrating. I've wanted to continue my career in Washington. I've created my life here. My wife and I bought our first home here. This has been somewhere I've always wanted to be. It feels like you have to beg for someone to see your worth and your value. You feel like you put that out there year in and year out, everything from previous regimes to even now. I've done everything that's been asked of me." And he said a bunch more stuff too, but I'll just kind of hit the bullet points. James Palmer detailed it well on Twitter, saying that McLaurin claims that the two parties haven't discussed contract talks in over a month, hasn't decided if he'll report to camp, which is next week. He'll see how it feels and goes this week. We already mentioned the frustrations. He has talked to Jaden Daniels, and Jaden does have his support. And I do think that's the key part of this. As a previous report, by the way, from Adam Schefter, I think last month, said they offered him $24 million per year, which, to be frankly, is insulting. But we'll get to that part of it in a second. I think the Jaden part of this is pretty important because Jaden Daniels comes in, lights it up as a rookie. Terry McLaurin's his number one receiver. They go to the NFC Championship game. Like, without Terry McLaurin, this thing looks a lot different, in my opinion, and I think Jaden Daniels knows that. So it's not surprising at all to see him voice his support of his number one receiver, but also, just from a money standpoint, and I get it, it gets frustrating if you're a fan of a team and guys constantly want a pay raise and this and that, but when T. Higgins, someone who's not even the number one on his team, and you could debate who the better player is, and T's a little bit younger, but when he signs for 28 3/4 and the Commanders are offering him 24, that's just not going to cut it. I mean, that's disrespectful, for being completely honest. I think this next deal has to start with a 3 in terms of $30+ million per year. I look at the DK Metcalf deal. To me, that's a fair baseline. Give him a touch over that because that's kind of how it works. When you're in the same tier as someone who just got paid, typically the next guy gets more. Give him 30.5, 31 per year on a, 3-4 year extension. Let's call it a day, because the Washington Commanders, for the first time really in, 25, 30 years, have some positive momentum going. New ownership, new coach, new quarterback, GM, vibes are good. Let's not mess around with this Terry McLaurin situation. Not saying you got to give him Jamar Chase money or even CeeDee Lamb, but I don't think 30 to 32 per year on a 2 or 3 year deal is that crazy to ask, given how much the wide receiver market has exploded. He's been consistent regardless of the quarterback. And again, I don't think he's those guys making 35 plus. But he's up there with DK Metcalf, and he clearly means a lot to this offense. And I think there's something to be said for, too, he wants to be there. He wanted to be there through, let's face it, the embarrassing times led by owner Dan Snyder. He played with guys like Carson Wentz, who was over the hill, Taylor Heineke, and now he finally has his quarterback. They have this awesome year together, and the Commanders want to lowball him. I just don't think it's a great play from Washington. And, okay, if I'm Terry McLaurin, I feel like I have a lot of leverage here. You going to go to war with Deebo Samuel as your number one receiver? I don't think so. It's just not going to get the job done. So I think in the end, this thing will work itself out. It could drag into training camp. It could get ugly. I do not expect him to practice without a new deal. But I think in the end they'll get this done because similar to TJ Watt in Pittsburgh, you don't operate the way that this team has this offseason trying to win now and then play super, super hardball with a key cog in your organization. Like they kind of just don't have a choice. So they're going to end up paying him. But he's clearly frustrated. He's not happy. They haven't talked in over a month, and training camp starts next week. So things are going to ramp up here pretty quickly. And like I said, I do think he's got all the leverage here given their roster construction. Okay, from a player frustrated about the lack of a contract, how about someone who did get one? Trey Smith signs a mega deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. This had been kind of rumored, reported on that they expected to get this deal done before the franchise tag deadline today. Otherwise, he would have had to play on the one-year tag. He becomes the highest paid guard in NFL history. Really good player, right? And what a find by Brett Veach in the 6th round. Now, some of that he had the heart condition coming out of Tennessee, so he dipped due to medicals, but certainly that gamble paid off for Kansas City. 23.5 per year, gets $70 million guaranteed, 4 for 94 on the total deal. Jason from Over the Cap had the good note here. They basically just quadrupled the franchise tag number and guaranteed 3 of the 4 years because he was going to make 23, I think 0.7 or 0.6 on the tag this year, 23.5 on a 4-year deal. So they basically said, okay, we'll just multiply it by 4, chop off 1 a year of guaranteed money, and make you the highest paid guard in NFL history. And look, once they dealt Joe Thuney, this was going to happen. It was always one or the other. For Kansas City, they couldn't pay both, and they opted to go with the younger player. Even if I think Joe Thuney right now is still a better player than Trey Smith, I think where the Chiefs are, it makes way more sense to invest in a 25-year-old guard who's a top 5, top 7 guard in the league, who's still ascending as a player, than a 32-year-old guard who's still very, very good and arguably the best in the league, but he's probably only going to be at the peak of his powers for the next couple of years. So I think they did make the right decision given where they're at with their salary cap. Patrick Mahomes is a happy customer. That's always a positive as well. And let's face it, their O-line issues showed their head in the Super Bowl last year, and you couldn't afford to lose both Thuney and Smith. So now it comes down to how do their tackles play. Juwan Taylor has not been a good signing for them. We'll see how he performs at right tackle. We'll see what they do at left tackle. They signed Jalen Moore. They also drafted the kid out of Ohio State, Josh Simmons, and there's early chatter that they're pretty high on him. Could he start as early as week 1? Obviously coming off that knee injury as well, but that'll all play itself out in training camp, and it's nice to not have this kind of awkward 1-year franchise tag lurking throughout 2025 for Kansas City. All right, guys, a couple more news items to hit on, but don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We are covering the latest NFL news, big storylines out there. I'm giving my thoughts, my takes on all of it. We also sprinkle in some college football as well. Do not miss out. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Okay, the Jets double down. Back-to-back days, they signed massive extensions for key young studs, Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. You take a look at Wilson's deal first. 4 years, $130 million, $90 guaranteed. It's a lot of money. Now, he's been productive despite not having very consistent quarterback play at all. Aaron Rodgers last year is the best he's had in 3 years, and this is not some elite version of Aaron Rodgers. And he still has 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons to start his career with the Jets for some putrid offensive teams so far in his career. 4th highest paid wide receiver in the league now. I think while I wouldn't say he's a top 5 receiver currently, I do think the arrow is pointing up, and if they can get more consistent play there. Now, in the short term, Justin Fields, is Garrett Wilson going to have 1,300-yard seasons? I don't know. DJ Moore did a couple of years ago in Chicago, so maybe it's possible. They obviously had a good rapport at Ohio State, so that'll be interesting, but not going to dog the Jets on this move. Young, ascending talent at wide receiver. Vibes are high there. I think overall that's a good move. Sauce Gardner becomes the highest paid corner in the NFL. If I were to give pause to either of these moves, I'd probably give it to this one, even though I do think Sauce is a very, very good player. I didn't like how last year it seemed like he just didn't want to tackle anymore. So hopefully Aaron Glenn and his hard-nosed approach kind of gets through to him this year. But obviously when he's locked in, he's arguably the best cover corner in the NFL, and that corner market is just skyrocketed, man. We saw J.C. Horn get 25 plus. Obviously, Stingley down in Houston gets 30, and now Sauce gets just over 30. Top Stingley on that deal, $85.6 million guaranteed as well. So Sauce and Garrett Wilson locked in. I also think it's a sign of the Jets might have some positive momentum here. The trust between this new staff and these young star players seems to be there. Now, money obviously talks. It's not hard to sign a 4-year, $120 million contract if you're Sauce Gardner, but I do think these guys are on the same page. I think they like this new regime led by Aaron Glenn. I don't know what the Jets are going to be this year in terms of wins and losses, but I do think they'll be a competitive bunch, and I think they're building the culture the right way, and maybe for the first time in a while, the Jets could be on to something good. Okay, who is going to win the Super Bowl this year? We'll leave you guys with that question. Let us know down in the comment section below if you have an early Super Bowl prediction. My name is Harrison Graham. Thanks so much for tuning into this show, and if you made it to the end of the episode, that makes you a real one. Don't forget to subscribe on the way out. We'll see you guys next time.